give the child what the child is needing. The spirit is gone, so we have to find a way to connect back to our spirit in order for us to be led the correct way. Now this situation up in Ferguson, in my opinion, by the Lord's eyesight, is that this kid, we don't know if he was a bully, we don't know if he's aggressive, we don't even know if he was in the game. But just by the appearance of the way he spoke at that time, he wasn't in no game, he wasn't no gang member. So that lets you know anybody can die at any given time. I think that we need to learn how to approach a situation, observe a situation. Is that situation for me, or shall I surrender myself to that situation? Because if we don't, we're going to lead ourselves into a condemned world, which is what he did. He went into a condemned world. But that young man died for a purpose. He died for the judicial system to change. So we got to look at the purpose, take the emotions out of it, look at logic and understanding. But he died for a purpose. And his purpose was to change the jurisdiction system without we knowing that was his purpose. So now we got to figure out how can we stop this change with the officers, what do we must do to reinforce the officers as well as the streets. Because our community, we far connected with the officers. We far connected. Why? Because the way we've been brutality treated, the way we've been talked to, the way we've been judged, stereotyped. So we have to break that cycle. And to break that cycle is we got to come up with a more methodology way of dealing with the civilians inside the community. Because the community is our people. And when our community broke down, the whole society is broke down. It ain't just individual people. It's the whole community, the whole society, because it's a ricochet. And the way it's going now, like you spoke on, from New York to Boston to California, as well as Atlanta, DC, this is if you look at youth, these is youth out here protesting. So it's coming to a youth revolution. We have to resolve that right now, because if we don't, it's just going to continue to raise. So we need to find a way to communicate with the officer. The officer need to find a way to communicate with us. Because we are the ones who's out here, we are the ones out here either playing or having fun, but they're taking it into another magnitude. And the magnitude is we got to keep our quota up. Are we that quota for them? No, we're not. So we got to stand up and claim our rights back. We got to claim our identity to who we are. Because see, we lost out here, we don't know who we are no more. We are following with the government failing us. We're following with the officer failing us. So who's not failing us and who's not failing us is God. Where is he at in the whole situation? Ain't nobody talking about him. He needs to be involved in the whole equation because he's the one overseeing everything. And if we don't put ourselves in this situation now, we're going to lose more than what we said on this panel talking about. We can come with all the solutions, we can come with all the answers, but who is interacting and put this into force? Who's doing it? If we don't do it and stand up for ourselves, who will?
Of course, this is a hot button issue, and these incidents have really struck a nerve here nationwide. And as a journalist, I do know that I think I can honestly say pretty much every law enforcement agency here in the state of Georgia has some sort, or most of them have some sort of community policing program. But there is some sort of disconnect that we're seeing, at least in some parts of the country. And so, and since the purpose of this event is for us all to come together and find solutions, if we could talk about what some of those solutions might be.
I think we have had a lot of deaths. A lot of our young black men, and even like Eric Gardner, he was 43, so he was an adult. We're losing lives. Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, Michael Dunn, I believe that was the name of the young man. We have, I know Jeremy Thomas, I know my son Bobby Tillman. All these people that I just named, they were murdered by someone, whether they were black, white, orange, purple, or green. And I think what we need to do as a people is protest every young black man and woman, because they could have all been a leader. They could have all been someone that would have helped the community. If we uplift and I'm not downplaying anything, I'm saying raise it up for everyone, because that's where we have work. Every life that was lost was valiant, and it was a tremendous loss, no matter who they were killed by. And when we, as a people, say that, look, you can't kill our young black men, whether you're white, black, orange, purple, or green, we're not going to take it. That's giving us worth back. That's giving our culture back the worth that we deserve, because we are worth everything, even the young men that we know nothing about. even his son that was robbed. It should be a big deal for all of their lives, because then that's when we, they will have work. My son's life meant just as much as anybody else's. My son was a king, and he could have been anything in this world, and his life was snatched. And it shouldn't make a difference by who, but who he was and what he could have become is gone. And so when we uplift each other, when we give our own people back the self-worth that they deserve, that we deserve, when we start respecting each other's lives as African Americans, then I think it will, that's the start of us uniting, and then also regaining our place back in society. Because right now our lives, they don't mean anything to other people. But we have to mean something to each other. He has to mean something to me. I have to mean something to him. And then we will mean something to everyone else. You know, it's a ricochet, but it starts with us, and in the communities, and within our households, and within our churches, and within the schools. Us as blacks, us as people right here now with these children coming up, what are they going to deal with the police, with what's going on now? What does my daughter have to look forward to? What does his son have, or your son that's Stephen? You know, but we have to come together now so they see that, because they see discord amongst us. You know, so it's hard to say, okay, stand for this, but we're not standing for each other. You know,